Did something just break inside Taehyung's heart? Why did his tears fall the moment he saw Jungkook again? Fragile, silent, and completely changed after the terrifying break-in that shook the world. Stay until the end and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if your heart aches too, because what you're about to read may be one of the most emotional chapters in BTS history. What truly happens to a bond when trauma strikes? What happens when the person you love as a brother, as a lifelong companion, suddenly becomes a shadow of himself, lost, quiet, and trembling under the weight of something you cannot fix? These were the haunting questions in Taehyung's mind when he finally saw Jungkook again, just days after that horrifying night when the youngest member's home was broken into by an unknown intruder. The world had moved on, the headlines had started to fade, but for Taehyung, time stood still the moment he saw the pain in Jungkook's eyes. He walked into the room slowly, his hands shaking, the sound of his own heartbeat louder than the rain outside. Jungkook sat by the window, wrapped in a thick blanket, the light barely touching his face. He didn't look up at first. He didn't need to. Taehyung could already feel it, the heaviness in the air, the silence that screamed louder than words. How could this happen? How could someone invade not just his friend's home, but his peace, his safety, his soul? Fans, known lovingly as ARMY, had been holding their breath ever since the incident. The news that Jungkook had fainted that night, found unconscious by emergency responders, had left millions worldwide in tears. Social media was flooded with messages of love, fear, and disbelief. "Stay strong, Jungkook," trended for days, but as the cameras turned away, the reality behind closed doors became something much darker. When Taehyung saw Jungkook again, the sight broke him. This was not the same person who used to laugh loudly, tease everyone in the studio, or hum melodies while scrolling through his phone. His voice, once full of life, now cracked whenever he tried to speak. His smile, that radiant, unforgettable smile, was gone, replaced by a blank stare that seemed to drift somewhere no one could reach. "Jungkook," Taehyung whispered, his voice trembling. The younger man didn't answer. His hand, resting on the windowsill, was still bandaged from the night of the break-in. The doctors said he was healing physically, but the emotional wounds were different, invisible, deeper, and far more painful. For a long moment they sat in silence. Then Jungkook finally spoke, barely above a whisper. "Hyung, I still hear it sometimes, the door breaking, the footsteps." His words cracked midway, and Taehyung's chest tightened as tears welled up in his eyes. How do you comfort someone whose sense of safety has been ripped away? How do you tell them it's going to be okay when you're not even sure yourself? The world only saw the surface, a tragedy, a shocking event, another headline. But what Taehyung saw was the aftermath, the quiet unraveling of someone he loved deeply. He had seen Jungkook strong through fame, pressure, and heartbreak, but this was different. This was the kind of pain that eats away at you from the inside, leaving nothing but silence. That night, Taehyung sat beside Jungkook, refusing to leave his side. He brought him tea, talked about their old trainee days, about music, about anything that could bring a flicker of light back into the room. But Jungkook barely responded. His mind was elsewhere, replaying that night, the sound of glass breaking, the rush of fear, the darkness closing in. And when Taehyung finally couldn't hold it in anymore, he turned his head away, wiping his tears with his sleeve. He didn't want Jungkook to see him cry. But Jungkook did. "Hyung, don't," he murmured softly. That was when Taehyung broke completely. The tears came uncontrollably, his body shaking as he reached for Jungkook's hand. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I should have been there. I should have." Jungkook stopped him with a faint squeeze of his hand. "You're here now," he said quietly. Those 3 words, small, fragile, and trembling, hit Taehyung harder than anything. He realized then that Jungkook didn't need grand words or promises. He just needed someone who wouldn't leave. Outside, the wind howled, echoing the turmoil inside. The walls of the room felt smaller, the night heavier. And somewhere deep down, both of them knew this wasn't something that would heal overnight. Trauma doesn't just fade. It lingers, reshaping everything it touches. But still, there was something unspoken between them, the silent vow that they would get through this together. The next morning, when Taehyung opened his phone, he saw countless fan messages flooding their feeds. Armies have been sharing photos of Jungkook, writing words of comfort, prayers, and support. Some even sent letters to HYB, begging them to ensure his safety and give him time to recover. The love was overwhelming, a reminder that no matter how dark things got, Jungkook was not alone. Yet, as days passed, the media began speculating again about his health, about his absence, about the emotional distance between the members. Taehyung hated that. He hated how the world turned pain into gossip. He wanted to scream that behind every rumor, there was a human heart breaking quietly. And one late-night live stream, Taehyung finally spoke, his eyes red and his tone heavy. "He's trying," he said softly. "Please don't pressure him. Just send love. That's all he needs right now." His words melted the hearts of millions. Comments poured in. "We're with Jungkook. Stay strong, Tae. We're crying with you." That was when ARMY realized something deeper. This wasn't just about an incident. It was about the fragility of being human, even for idols who seem untouchable. It was about how trauma could break even the brightest souls, and how love, quiet, patient love, could start the process of healing. But what many didn't know was that Taehyung too was struggling. Every night after visiting Jungkook, he would sit alone in his car, staring at the steering wheel, replaying the same question in his head. What if I had arrived sooner? The guilt was unbearable. Even though he knew logically it wasn't his fault, the image of Jungkook lying unconscious haunted him every time he closed his eyes. Somewhere deep inside, Taehyung promised himself that he would never let Jungkook face darkness alone again. No matter how busy their schedules became, no matter how loud the world outside grew, he would make sure his brother felt safe again. Because for Taehyung, Jungkook wasn't just a member of BTS. He was family, and family means you don't walk away when things get hard. Weeks later, when Jungkook finally smiled again, even just a faint, fleeting one, Taehyung cried quietly behind his mask. It was the smallest sign, but to him it meant everything. Healing had begun. Slowly, gently, together. And as the sun set over Seoul, two friends sat side by side, watching the light fade from the sky. No cameras, no fans, no stage lights, just silence, and the sound of their hearts beating in quiet promise. The nightmare wasn't over, but neither was their story. And sometimes that's enough. So now, dear reader, what do you think? Can love really mend the pieces that fear has shattered? Do you believe Jungkook will find his way back to the light, with Taehyung walking beside him step by step? Leave your thoughts below. Share your prayers for their healing, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more updates on this emotional journey. Because this isn't just news. It's a story of friendship, heartbreak, and hope that reminds us all. Even the strongest hearts can break, but they can also heal again. Days turned into weeks, and the quiet between Jungkook and Taehyung became both a comfort and a curse. The silence carried all the things they couldn't say out loud, the fear, the guilt, the longing for things to be the way they once were. Every time Taehyung visited, he brought a piece of normalcy with him. Small jokes, old inside stories, songs they used to hum during late-night practices. But still, the light in Jungkook's eyes flickered faintly, like a candle struggling against the wind. Sometimes Taehyung would catch Jungkook staring out the window for hours, his gaze lost somewhere beyond the skyline. It wasn't the usual daydreaming of a young man filled with dreams and ambition. It was something deeper, like he was searching for himself in the distance, trying to remember who he used to be before fear took hold of his heart. One night, as the rain poured heavily, Jungkook finally broke the silence. His voice was barely audible, but Taehyung heard every word. "Young, I don't feel safe anywhere anymore." The sentence shattered the air like glass. Taehyung felt a lump in his throat as he tried to find the right words. "You're safe with me," he whispered, gripping Jungkook's hand tightly. But Jungkook shook his head slowly. "Even then, I still hear it. The